welcome back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. And it's about media muppets once again. It's been a while since we've done this, but I was browsing through the corridors of social media. Dangerous place, yes I know, especially when you're walking through the halls of X, formerly known as Twitter. But I did happen to see something that popped up from Sky Sports the other day, who were doing an analysis in the studio with Jamie Carragher, Peter Cech and Dave something or other. I can't remember what his name is. Apologies, Dave. I think you're a Mackham, so I don't really care. But they were talking about teams qualifying for Europe and how they struggle after that. And the bit that really caught my attention by the wonder of YouTube, Mark will be pulling that up right now, was this tag where they referred to them as non-Big Six clubs. And it's kind of irated and irritated a lot of fans on social media of the other 14 clubs, as I think they're often known as, in amongst the halls of the Premier League. And it just reaffirms the faith in me that Sky Sports are so top six centric. It just fucking winds me up. It really does. They don't give a fuck about any of the teams below it. You only have to see it from the TV coverage. Whenever there's a game on, you know, if there's a game before, if it's Aston Villa versus Wolves, and then it's City versus Spurs after that, all of the build-up is about City and Spurs, even though the game's 3 hours away, and they give you small little finite snippets of Villa, Wolves, or whoever happens to be the other teams before it. It's exactly what Sky are all about. They only give a fuck about the top six. The sexy clubs, in their opinion, don't give a shit about everybody else who makes up the rest of the league, and it really pisses me off. And this whole conversation, I mean, and credit to Jamie Carragher a little bit on this one, because he did call this guy Dave out about it. He started to point out about teams who did well. You know, he talked about, was it Leicester and Wigan after their triumphs got relegated, and Southampton and things like that as well. But you look at that list and he's calling them non-Big Six clubs, right? Aston Villa are on that list. They've got more Champions League medals and trophies in their cabinet than fucking Arsenal or Spurs have. Leicester City have won the league most recently than fucking Arsenal have, and Spurs have as well, and they won the FA Cup as well, you know. So give these teams a bit of fucking respect here, rather than just talking about that wankfest Big Six who've got oodles amounts of cash. And he kept talking about how, you know, the squads are struggling. Peter Cech was talking about the squads maybe, you know, going out of their little financial bubbles and all this kind of stuff, and it was almost a way to kind of vindicate FFP without directly vindicating FFP. But that's the bit that fucks me off the most. They're standing up there and they're doing this talk. They've got their big chart up on their green screens and all that kind of stuff, but they're missing the point. The whole point of what you're talking about is just a further indication of how crooked and fucking bent the Premier League is, and how it's designed to look after those Big Six, as you refer to them as. It really pisses me off. You look at teams like Leicester winning the league. Not only was that one of the most great sporting achievement of all time, really, it was a way to rattle the kind of cartel of the Big Six that was there. They hated Leicester being there. No matter how much the Premier League rolled that out and broadcast as one of the greatest achievements of all time, they hated Leicester winning the league. It fucked them right off. They were all ready to have Spurs lifting the trophy and write a fucking sonnet about Harry Kane's left butt or something like that. It was brilliant. Leicester screwed the whole plans. It really was. And I wish more teams would do it. But in the current guise of the Premier League, it's never going to happen. And that's why they introduced the FFP rule. You look at those teams that are there now, historically, and from a legacy point of view, Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool were already there. Chelsea became Chelsea because Roman Abramovich came over here with all of his money and made them into a superpower club. Same with Manchester City with Sheikh Mansour. But Newcastle can't do that because we've been hampered with FFP. We've got the richest owners in the fucking world. These guys could lose $2 billion down the back of the fucking sofa next to a half-eaten Mars bar and a fucking, you know, a football sticker card you thought you had 6 years ago or something like that. These guys are fucking minted, but they're not able to spend that money because of these bullshit rules that exist in the Premier League. Now, there was a meeting not too long ago where they're trying to change FFP and morph into what they call PSR, where there has to show a level of profit in the clubs to sustain any financial hits of 26 million, I think it is. There's no further indications to when, how, or if that's going to change. But everybody's seeing through this bullshit like a pane of glass, which is exactly what it is. The FFP rule is just there to keep the Big Six exactly what they are, the Big Six, and not let anybody else reach for the brass ring. You know, teams like Aston Villa, for example, if Aston Villa qualify for the Champions League like we did last season, they won't be able to invest in the squad the way that they want to, so they can have a squad that can take on the Champions League and try and get to the knockouts, as well as still be competitive in the Premier League and go for the domestic cups. And that's exactly what they were saying. They were saying, oh, you need to bring youngsters through and all of that. And that's another thing that fucking wound me up as well, because what happened over the last 25, 30 years is Manchester City, Chelsea, Manchester United, Liverpool, all these people, especially on the northwest and places like that. You're talking about Wigan winning the FA Cup. All of the good players in Wigan who are playing for the schoolboy teams and the school teams, all getting fucking poached by Man United, Liverpool, City. Then you've got further afield, Chelsea raiding the whole fucking world for youngsters, signing them up, loaning them out to God knows how many clubs. So these other clubs haven't got a sniff, haven't got a chance of getting them whatsoever. There's even lads who are at the Newcastle Academy now playing for fucking Liverpool, in the shape of Bobby Clark. The whole thing stinks of shit. You can't turn around and stand there on the screen with a straight fucking face and say, is it worth these teams going for Europe? Is it worth these teams trying to be successful? Because what happens is they haven't got the money or the ability to spend the money that they have got to compete with the rest of the six at the top of the Premier League. Because you motherfuckers, FFP Premier League, Sky have played their part in this, by the way, no fucking doubt about it with the TV money. You prevented that from happening. So even when a massive financial power like the PIF of Saudi Arabia buying Newcastle United, they can't go and reach that brass ring. They can't do what City did. They can't do what Chelsea did because you're blocking the fucking road. And you're talking about bringing in young players and bringing them through the academy and all that. What happens then? A young player comes and look at Evan Ferguson at Brighton. They're already talking about going to Man United for 100 million or something like that. They're trying to use the rest of the teams in the Premier League as fucking feeder clubs for these six teams. These very six teams that wanted to fuck off and join a European Super League. What would have happened then? I'd say exactly what would have happened. Sky would have fucked the Premier League off and went and got the rights for the Super League. That's exactly what they would have done. And I wonder where all those pundits who were on top of their fucking high horses would have been then, when the guys who pay their wages basically whipped it out and pissed all over the Premier League and fucked off. And I wonder what Richard Masters and all those other shithouses would have done off the back of that. So yeah, it really annoyed me watching that. It's so disrespectful to the rest of the Premier League to label people non-Big Six clubs. It really pisses me off. What should happen in the Premier League is when a season starts, anybody should be able to win it and finish between first and sixth. It shouldn't just be those teams every single season. You talk about the SPL and how that's not a fair league. It's one or two teams. You talk about La Liga, it's 1, 2, 3 teams. The Premier League has become exactly the same thing. And this is the main reason for it. Too much money, too much influence, too much control for those six clubs. People like Sky right behind it, pulling the strings like fucking Geppetto. And I hope to Christ this FFP thing gets changed, gets loosened up a bit, so some of these teams can at least make a fucking go of it and try to crack that Big Six and ruin that tea party. And so that's my thoughts about that, guys. Let us know what you think in the comments below about that ridiculous comment from Sky. Media Muppets 100%. We always like to hear from you. If this is the kind of thing you like, subscribe, smash a like. It's all free content. If you want to give a bit back to the channel, there's an option there too. Hit whichever one suits you best, and we'll be back soon, I'm sure, with some more thoughts and rants of the day, especially if these shit houses keep rolling out the red carpet for the Big Six. Fuck them. See you later. Cheers.